Hello?
No? Oh, we're live. Oh man, I totally screwed up the countdown. And you know what's gonna happen? Like we're gonna be talking, and then 15 seconds later, everybody's gonna be jumping in,
Yep.
and we'll see, and I'll be able to tell in a few seconds. Yep, there. Now we're live. Now we're
Oh,
live.
okay.
Everybody can see.
All right.
But when they see the replay, they're gonna see us. I totally goofed up that whole thing. Hey guys, hey everyone, it is Bobby Legs here, your co-host for Watch Soup this evening. I'm joined by my other co-host, Clayton from the Watchdog Podcast, and Sanjay from the Engineer Wannabe channel. If it's your first time here, we take some videos, we choose some videos from the week that just passed, from the watch content creators out there, and we talk about them, we analyze them, and we discuss with you on the chat for sure. Hey, Clayton, how are you, man? What's going on?
Doing okay. It's been a interesting week or two, but I'm all good. Happy to be here with you guys. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
excellent.
absolutely.
Happy that you're here. Hey, what do you have on wrist?
Just the old Air King tonight.
Yeah, great
Just the
watch.
old Air
Pretty cool.
King.
Just
No
the
big
Just
old
the
Air
old
deal.
King.
Air King.
No
Yeah,
big
Yeah.
deal.
no big deal. It's
The old
flaunt,
AK.
flaunt a Rolex in front of Sanjay. Let's see if you're sharp enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Hey, Sanjay. Speaking of, hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, good. How are you?
Good, good. I saw on your stream last night that you picked up a new piece.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Oh, I
thank
haven't
you.
watched it yet. Oh boy.
Are you wearing it today, Sanjay, or
I
are you gonna
I
make
am, I
a?
am, I am.
Okay.
It is the SPG W289.
Mm,
Congrats.
Thank you.
Congrats to you.
congratulations,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Clayton's
Congratulations.
probably having a remembering how much I hate the hands on it, but
Right.
yeah, no,
Exactly.
I don't hate them as much as I used to, but
Yeah. Hey, we all change, right?
yeah,
And I think that
Yeah.
was like kind of like the theme of your stream last night, right? I mean, like, things change and
yeah. I
opinions
even
change.
mentioned you how you changed from liking the not liking the snowflake hands to going on to liking the snowflake hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and one might say that I've changed again because I just sold my Blackpink 58. So, but it has nothing to do with the snowflake hands, right? It's
Right.
all, I'm transitioning back. Can you say transitioning back? I am redirecting my collection and going towards German again and really getting back to the roots of my collecting. Anyway, so
You're you're
in
an you're a
yeah,
new man, Bobby.
I'm
Right.
again. I'm a new man again.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so like in that transition, I am wearing a trusty G-Shock. It's one of
Oh,
them. I
nice.
don't know. I forget. I
The
forget
glide?
the. Huh?
Is it one of those glides? G glides or
No, no, it's not. It's one of them. It's
it
one
looks
of the.
good.
Right.
It's I don't know what the model number is, but I like it. I like it a
Yeah.
lot, and so it's been my this summer. It's been my doing the work outside kind of watch. I
Mm.
had a little mishap yesterday. I was trying to
Oh,
change a belt in my brush mower, and the brush mower weighs around 350 pounds. And I was tilting on the side, just trying to get it some leverage or just to prop it up because what I was trying to do with the belt, like I don't have a lift, right? And
right.
uh, and so like I had to put it on the side, which I didn't want to do, but I had no choice. And something happened. I was trying to wedge a log underneath there, and I caught it. And I think I may have torn my bicep. Um,
Oh.
but uh, but I probably strained it. It, like Ajay was saying, like when you've torn it, when you have this big bruise, like it starts
Mm.
to bruise,
Yeah. Yep.
and so I thought I saw that today. It looks like it's not. I also got to add insult to injury while I'm like writhing in pain, like a I don't know what kind of like a horse fight, whatever, like stung me on the bicep. Well, you know what I
Oh,
mean? So
Oh,
like,
insult
so
to injury.
exactly, exactly. It's like the improbable, and so like it's swollen from that. So like I have to wait till the bug bite. I know this is too much
oh
information,
man.
but I have to wait till the bug bite stops the swelling to come down to make sure really like I don't have the ball that you have like when like it looks like a ball like it's just
Yeah.
so far so good. I think I just strained it and in a lot of pain, but I don't want it to get in the way of the karate, man. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
I got a good thing going with the karate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to stop.
Well, you can
Anyway,
still sweep the leg, so you're
I
good.
got absolutely. I could totally sweep the leg. Very true. Hey, let's say hello to people on the chat, and then we'll get right into the soup. Quicker than drawing. Hey, howdy, gents. Have a great stream. Thanks, Quicker. James is here. What's going on, James? Mayzone is here. Good to see you. Spent most of the last week in the hospital after oh my God.
Ooh.
Mild heart attack, somewhat alarming.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man, got well taken care of. Okay, well, Maison, please take care of
Yeah,
yourself
take care.
for sure. We're just talking watches, and it's fun, but real life is real life, and your health is the most important thing. And if we could bring you some joy tonight, uh, we'll do our best.
Soup is
Steve,
good for the soul.
soup is good for exactly. Steve Time Hill is here. Hey Wilson, what's going on? Underachieving Watch Collector is here. Oops, I dropped him. Hey, Canadian Watch Monkey. Hey guys, picked up a very cool Oris Chronoris with the internal rotating bezel. Good for you, Canadian Watch Monkey.
Congrats.
Awesome, congrats. Michael Nauer at GS has T-Rex arms. Oh boy.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Hey, the Commanders did win. They didn't look so good in the first half, and they almost lost the game, or the game almost went into overtime, almost improbably with a Hail Mary at the end. But
Yeah, that was wild.
that was wild. And he was short, right? He was short of the end zone, and it's still like tipped in somehow. Like, you rarely see those things work. They may have gotten away with a pass interference in the 2-point conversion. I don't care. I'll take it. It was a good win. We deserve to win that game. Based on the first thing I did when it's over here. Okay, I know American football. First thing I did when I got back was to get the Long Pond 50 Fathoms out and put it on. Good for you, Maison.
Yeah.
Pale Horse is here. Hey, Bruno, what's going on? Chaz from the Berg is here. Hey, Neo, good to see you. Let's scroll on that. Oh, Bobby, okay. So what happened? I only caught the tail end, and it was clear if you got a bug bite or a karate injury. Okay, so not a karate injury. Changing the belt on the Brushmore injury with the added insult of a bug bite on top of the same bicep. It's great. Yeah. Yeah, I am Charlie Brown. Yeah. Greetings all. Greetings to you, Caliber. Good to see you. Hey, Mez9 is here. Awesome. He dropped a hedgehog on his bicep. What? Okay. Sure I did. Okay, now that we got all the intros out of the way, let's jump into the soup. We're gonna start off with I'll kick it off this time. I feel like I haven't kicked it off in a while, and so we're gonna start off with Bill Sanders, WatchArtSci, buy a watch for its value, not its resale price. So the title of the video, I was like, Bill's gonna get into some controversy here, join in the fight that watches are not investments. And while he touches a little bit about that in the beginning, he actually is more focused, I feel, on finding value in watches and certain aspects of it, and how you can, get a lot of bang for your buck with it, right? And he's not necessarily talking about monetary value, like what it's worth, but still, talking about overall intrinsic value with slight monetary, connotations on top of that. But let's get right into what the video was about. He started off with a quote: "Fools know the value of everything and the price of nothing," which was a great start off to the video. And so he had like four bullet points, right, of what is value in a watch. And number one, the horological value of the watch, functionality, complexity, craftsmanship. He used the example of the Repertoire d'Égalité. He was talking to Stephen Forsay, and he's like, why don't watchmakers do more of that Repertoire d'Égalité? And the response from Stephen Forsay is because it's really hard to do. So there's some there's value in some of these complications and these special complications. Then he was talking about the aesthetic value. It has the aesthetic of a watch has some kind of virtue that elicits, pleasure in us, right? Some of us are movement side guys, some of us are dial side guys, and for those dial side guys, I'm thinking of right off the bat, like Grand Seiko and some of their options for dials they're just beautiful, and they're very pleasing in the eye to the eye, and the high polishing of the hands, is really really grabs at people in a certain way. And then there's personal value. Like, was this watch like something that was handed down to you by somebody, or was it a gift for a special occasion? And the price is the amount you pay. Now, for him, he touches on these aspects, what he personally finds value, right? So the movement, he's very much a movement guy, um, and he likes the watchmaker, right? He likes the uniqueness of certain movements. The equation of time. He wanted a movement, a watch with that feature, that complication, and he found one in Longines. Like, most of these equation of time versions of variations are priced, astronomical, but he was able to find one in a Longines and find great value in that. Finding exceptional horology in common watches. Um, so he used the example of the Chaumet Dandy, right? And it has a silly name, right? The Dandy,
The
right?
dandy.
And yeah, but it has like this movement, the AGH 4204, as these special gears that were made by Jean-Marc Viderec. I think he owns or I think he owns Agenor, or that's the name of his movement company, right? And so that's something that's really really unique, that you would see in a watch that you may not think of a brand who makes watches, who makes jewelry, but also makes some watches. So you may not associate something like that with that kind of brand, and unique applications. And he used minute repeaters. He showed a Bulgaria example that's over close to 200,000, right? And then he showed the Belcanto, right? So Christopher Ward came out with this minute repeater for very affordable pricing, compared to other minute repeaters that are out there. And then like finally, like Pure Fun, where he finds value, and use the example of the recent Louis Erard Chaikin, the regulator that crazy looking piece of watch there, and how you can find something that's just whimsical and fun at a good value. And so anyway, guys, what I want to ask you guys, what in particular is value to you in a watch? Like, are you attracted to the movement side? Are you attracted to the aesthetic? Do you have a personal connection with a watch? Was it passed down to you by somebody? What is it that you find the most valuable part of a watch, Clayton?
I think I have one of each of these
Mm,
in my collection that sort of fits everything. Like, I have watches that were gift watches that are very special. Like, a couple from my grandma, my grandpa. One, a client gifted me like an old Gruen, like a 1940s Gruen. So those are special to me for
mm,
that. Those, like, and like my wife's giving me a couple watches. My family's giving me a couple watches. So those are definitely special. Yeah, horological value, like by Moser. Also, that Vogard World Timer that I have, which is a very unique complication,
mm.
which they sold to IWC for the time zoner. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's just a really cool. Then I like unique stuff like that. I know the Fortis, everybody kind of ribs on it a little bit, but I think it's cool.
Mm,
I just, it makes me smile, makes me happy. So yeah, I think I value. I don't know. I don't really know until you see it. Like, I value all of
yeah.
those things, like aesthetics. If a watch looks really cool, like I love the way the Moser looks on the front and the back. The movement's absolutely beautiful. But yeah, I think finding something like I think that's an amazing complication on the Vogard, and I got it for a really good price. So yeah, I guess I value all of those things
Yeah.
in different watches in my collection. But
Yeah.
like story
Hmm.
is a big one. I think that's why I love like Seiko And even like Cartier, the story of the Santos and all that, like that really means a lot. And that wasn't always super important to me. I think I've said before, when I got in, it was like specs are the most
Yeah.
important thing, and now it's like, that doesn't that's nice, but I don't know. Like if a brand has heritage and history, like that really gets
Mm,
me now. So
hmm
speaks to me, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Sanjay, what about you, Sanjay?
Yeah. Well, I've experienced a lot of maisons over the years, and
Dial,
in
dials.
my collection, the most important thing is the dial.
Uh, yeah,
No, yeah, just a little cavalier there, but
yeah.
um, I really do like the dial side. I I won't I won't be upset if the movement is really nice looking, like say some of the higher end Grand Seikos, or um, I don't know, or a couple of Zeniths that I've
Mm,
had. I don't know, but I do prioritize dial and case, like
mhm.
a nice dial with a very interesting or complicated case. I think is what I value the most
Is
in
finishing
a watch.
part of that for you on the
Yeah,
case?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Case finishing, yeah,
yeah.
would be really up there. Yeah, especially like a complicated case is no big deal if the finishing is not too great.
Mm,
I'd like for the finishing, the lines to be extremely crisp, the brushing
mm,
to be very fine. Those are the things I value a lot, and it would be a really nice icing on the cake if the movement looks really good too.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think I valued the movement more when I had a desk job. And I actually had time to take my watch off and stare at the
Mm,
movement while I wound the watch up. I don't have that kind of time anymore. So, I can only admire the watch while I'm on the go.
yeah,
Um, so the dial in the case has like far surpassed the movement finishing now for me. So,
yeah. I feel that I can find value after I see a piece, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of sort of like where you guys are talking about, like so like this, like there's so much value uh for this Casio G-Shock that I have on my
Mm,
wrist, because it it is I could do anything I want. I don't have to worry about, and that's the part that's great about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's going to tell the time accurately, and I don't have to stress out about anything about that, right? And if it gets damaged, it gets damaged. I get another one, and there's so much value in that. Not because it's inexpensive, but because it's a relief. It's a stress relief, right? I don't have to
mm,
necessarily worry about like I would with other timepieces. Now, if there's something that initially it's like like when you're dating or whatever, like a lot of it is kind of like, at first it's aesthetics, right? It's like it's the first look, right? And so, like, with watches, like, I know almost instantly whether I like it or not. Now, there might be other things about the watch that I find out afterwards that I can like backfill into like what I like about it and where I find value for it. You know what I mean? Oh, it has you know um, a really really great workhorse movement in it that is regulated, and the time is accurate, or close to accurate as you can get. Oh, I like this watch, but the finishing on it, the details are amazing on it. So, like, I don't go into anymore looking for a piece with a certain aspect that I find value with. I
mm.
see the piece, and then I can, if I really like it, I could work that in. I don't know if that's like the right thing to do or not, but I feel like that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
So you buy a watch and then you rationalize the purchase.
Well, I have to like it the way basically, but I mean, I have to like it first. Like, it's
Yeah,
not like I just buy anything willy nilly and then I rationalize the purchase, right? It's
right.
like there's some level of of that I find, that grabs at me, you know what I mean, that I
Mm.
like, that I want, and that's the reason why I want it. And then, like, I'll read something about it, I'm like, oh, that's interesting, oh, I really really like that, and then I kind of find out. And then, like, there's other times when I just want a really kick-ass looking movement,
Yeah.
so I'm a little bit all over the place, but I think, like, now I'm just like, for me, it's like kind of like what I'm getting at. It's mostly aesthetics right now for me.
Well, I like that
Mm.
your dating analogy there because it is almost like you see a watch that you like are really attracted to. You're like, oh, I'm gonna buy it. It's then you wear it for a while. That's almost like moving in with the person you're
Yeah,
dating, right? You get to know them on a more intimate level, and you find the things you like. And then when you move in with somebody, you're like, oh, these are the
yeah,
things I don't like. So
yeah,
once you get to have a little more intimate relationship with the watch, that came out wrong, but you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
100%.
but, yeah, once you get some time with it, you get to learn what you like and you don't like, so
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you guys try to find like something like with Bill with this like equation of time? You found a Longines that has that aspect of it. I mean, like, is there something out there like do you try to find like a watch or let's say it has like some complication that we associate with like a higher end piece. Um, would you try to find an affordable version that still has that type of complication? Is that something that you've ever done? Like for example, look, I went through a phase where like I wanted to get a regulator, but a lot of the regulators that I was looking at were like, well, they were Chrono Swiss, right? They Chrono Swiss because Chrono Swiss has done a lot, and they were like several $1,000s, but I didn't want to spend that much, right?
Mm.
So I found a Steinhardt
I
that
remember
was
that.
like 600, $700, right? A nice
Broke,
looking,
right? It broke?
yeah, it did
Yeah.
break, right? But okay, but so let's forget about that. It broke. But 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 I purposely did that. I purposely tried to find. I wanted a regulator. Didn't want to spend that kind of money. I knew I was going to wear a regulator watch all the time. I didn't want to make it like an everyday type of thing. Oh, here's a Steinhardt. It is what it is, a Steinhardt, but it's a regulator. It's a Unitas 6498. You know what I mean? Okay, so that's a workhorse movement. That's a great movement there. It's got a lot of history, and so I picked it up. Like, would you guys ever consider doing
Absolutely not.
that?
No, I mean I don't think so. I'm not really interested in complications, so that's probably why.
Well, okay, so just
But
forget about complications, right? Like it,
aesthetic,
it's an aesthetic.
absolutely not.
Okay, okay.
No, I'd feel like I'm cheating myself if I were to look for something that looked a little like another watch. Um,
Hmm.
I've done it.
Yeah,
I've done it by accident too. But yeah, if I can help it, I'd rather not have the real deal than have a a an a lesser version of it.
gotcha.
I don't know if that
For
makes
me, it
sense.
would be a GMT because I'm not really into that complication. So if I felt like I'd rather buy like a Seiko 5
Hmm.
GMT than spend a few $1,000s on even a Longines or a
Yeah,
Tudor or
yeah,
something because it's not a complication that I really, for me, just personally don't value or don't really enjoy. But if I got the itch, I would just
yeah.
spend a few $100s instead of a few $1,000s. That's an example I can think of.
Hmm.
Yep, fair enough. Hey,
Yeah.
let's see what the chat says.
Yeah.
See, talking about legs is a walking accident. Jeez, that's kind of harsh. That's harsh.
How are your fingers looking?
The
Yeah,
fingers are,
moisturized.
yeah, the fingers are.
You have
Yeah,
them, which is good. You
I
have
have them.
fingers still.
Yeah, yeah, man. I was sticking my hands in gears, man. I probably should have gotten some help. Anyway,
These are the
but
my wife's an operating room nurse. These are the horror stories I hear.
ooh,
Mm.
If people sticking their hands in things they should not,
yeah,
machinery. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
be careful. Be careful.
I know. Yeah. Um, Can you watch my? I love hidden gems, less mainstream, and for those in the know, appreciate it. Okay. I never buy a resale value, but sometimes for resale value, but sometimes the price is so good, I convince myself I cannot afford not to buy. Been there. Um, James saying not to try to sound crass, but watches are like women. If not, it's not what you. It's not what. It's not what get you up. It's what keeps you up. All right. Have I been hitting the payment? Nah, it's just a lot of Motrin. A lot of Motrin. Let's see here.
What's Motrin like?
It's
Ibuprofen.
ibuprofen.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ms. saying for me, it's the overall value of the aesthetics, dial, case, movement, everything. I haven't come to sell a watch yet, so resale hasn't come into it yet. The resale doesn't factor in my thinking.
Hmm.
Put it this way: I bought the Moser directly from Moser. If I were to sell it, I'd take a massive bath. Good job. I have no intention to sell that one. Love it too much.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Hey, let's move on to the next topic, and we'll go with Ben's Watch Club. Before you buy your next watch, 13 deal-breaking QC errors to check. Hey, Sanjay, this is your pick. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different video. I don't normally watch Ben's Watch Club, so when this popped up, I thought, hey, give it a shot. It was a pretty entertaining video. I think the list could have been condensed down significantly because there was multiple misalignment. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't. I don't. Yeah, I probably think he could have made it like 6
Yeah.
and taken out put misalignment in one thing. But I was thinking we could use this video as a talking point for our QC horror stories, if we have any. I know Clayton, you have some microbrand QC horror stories, but um,
Yeah, a couple.
yeah, I'd love to hear, especially in the chat, guys would love to hear any QC horror stories. But to start off, I had a beautiful Grand Seiko with nice inky blue GMT glossy dial, with beautiful towering indices, right? Cut like gems. And it had on in the right lighting, especially in a detail bay, it had massive ripples around around each index, and it was only visible in specific lighting. But I have no idea how that came to be, but that slowly eroded my love for that watch, unfortunately. And so yeah, it was the SBGN 0209, I would say 027, one of the SBGN models, and yeah, that was probably the biggest QC horror story I've had. I have things like what he's mentioned, like terrible timing, way off spec. He mentioned a couple of things like seconds hand misalignment. I've had that in multiple Grand Seikos. He did mention something along the lines of how difficult it is to, or how it's not really that difficult to get the seconds hand to hit every marker. And I think that was one of the first episodes I heard of the Watchdog podcast as well.
Yeah.
You were talking about how Citizen manages to align it, but that shows like a super what would you call it? Super mechanicalized production process, right?
Yes.
Um, whereas something that is maybe a bit more artisanal is not going to quite hit every seconds mark, sorry, yeah, every minute mark on the seconds hand. So yeah, a couple of interesting opinions, but yeah, looking forward to hearing what you guys think. Bobby,
Clayton?
Clayton,
No, go ahead, please.
Well, I mean, in regards to
QC,
QC experiences, I mean, like,
yeah,
so, like, I've never had a huge problem, or I mean, I've been fortunate. Like, most of this stuff has been like with the lower end pieces, right? Like misaligned chapter rings and bezels and whatnot, but nothing that like had caused me ever like a certain amount of like distress. I did. There was one time though when I had purchased a Jaeger and Benzinger watch, and I thought that there was a scratch on
mm,
the dial when I got it, and the pictures um, were online were good, but then I noticed that one of those pictures where you would have seen it wasn't like that. That watch was not that photo was not there, so I was a little upset with the seller. It turned out that it was I sent it to RGM, and it was just some dust, right?
um,
But that was like that was like not I didn't buy that watch directly from the brand. I bought it from a secondhand and used. So I don't know where where my my gripe would have been, it probably would have been with the person that owned it before me, but it turned out to be nothing. Anyway, so anything that I really purchased, I mean, we're talking like very, very affordable kind of stuff that like, well, it's kind of like, I guess I've learned to accept it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I've dodged a bullet when it comes to any major QC errors on any of the watches that I've made. Clayton, have you been so lucky?
I've had a few. The one thing in the video that I thought was interesting was a hair in the movement. I thought I've
Yeah,
never
Yeah,
yeah,
heard of
that's
that
what
before.
right.
he mentioned it was unhygienic. What do you do? Lick your movement every day? Like,
Yeah, that's odd. I never heard of that. He said he's seen it a couple times, I thought he said. So
right,
that
that
I
too.
thought that was interesting. Found a hair in my lunch before, but
Yeah,
never in my
right,
movement. Obviously
Yeah.
not mine.
right.
Yeah, there's a I guess I'll name them, no big deal. Dorenzo micro brand.
Mm, mhm.
I think I think it was the DR03 or something, the Eclipse. It was a dive watch
Yeah.
meant to look like an eclipse, pretty cool. I was my first and only, Kickstarter watch. Went in with a friend, and we got, like, the you can get 2 of them, so we split it. It's a little cheaper that way, and it took forever. It was right when the pandemic happened, so we were like, "Oh, boy," but actually, only a little after, they promised, so that was pretty good, but, when you I don't know if you've ever done those watches where you just wait. I had forgotten
Yeah.
about it, like,
Yeah.
taste change. So I got it and I had watched videos on it and how the loom is amazing. And I got mine and my friend John, the loom on his was amazing and mine was like non-existent. I was like, oh, this is so odd. Like this is a
Yeah.
defect. So I messaged the owner of the brand and he acknowledged it, but offered like no recourse or anything like that. It was like there was no loom on the watch. And I was like, okay, he's like, "Yeah, unfortunately, some of them got shipped with no loom." And I was waiting for like a "but, we'll do," I never got one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but, outside of that, like the other things you guys talked about, like, misalignment. I mean, I've seen misalignment on the SMP that I had, but at the 30 on the bezel, not at the arrow at the top.
Mm.
That was a little off at the 6 o'clock. I got another micro brand watch, picking on micro brands. My in-laws got me Carpenter, they're a brand out of Brooklyn. On the back of the watch, on the rotor, there's actually like some schmutz on the rotor, which is odd. I don't know what it is. But it's definitely
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah.
um, it seems to run fine. But yeah, so just that kind of stuff.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah.
Been
That's
lucky,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
All right.
Chat.
Yeah,
Come on.
chat. Any issues, chat? Let's see what the chat says. Um, Sanjay doesn't even know what Motrin is. So
Maybe it's a Canada thing. I'm pretty sure we have Motrin though.
like a little baby bird that hasn't left the nest. Wow. James saying I stopped following Ben because he did watch Chris Dirty, but I watched this one before the stream. Well, thank you, James, for being informed and playing ball. Wabi
What
Sabi.
what happened?
Yeah, I don't know that story.
Yeah.
I wasn't that didn't Ben like call out a bunch of YouTube content creators at one point for
Oh.
for like taking or accepting watches as payment, and doing reviews about it was all about like reviews and how like they're not really you got to be careful they're not really honest reviews, especially when you take watches in lieu of the review. I believe that's
Oh,
what he was I believe that's the video, and I believe that's what James is referring to, and he actually called out actual content creators,
oh, wow.
Hmm.
with that. So
I'm not
um,
familiar enough with his stuff. I haven't watched a ton, so
Hmm.
yeah, I once in a while.
Yeah.
Wilson does me dirty on a regular, and no one seems to care. Wow. Yeah, well, Wilson's the king, man. He's the king. James, I'm a habitual impulse buyer, and I usually buy online from Japan, so I think that makes me a man of faith. Hey, man, but Seiko JDMs, right? That's the thing, right? That's the the quality, the QC is a little bit better, right? I mean, that's and I've never really had a major QC issue with a Seiko that was a JDM, right? A version. I mean, I think the logic or of what I've heard is those watches obviously are made for the Japanese market, and quality is really, it's very, very important. I mean, it's important to everybody, right? Quality control it should be important to everybody.
Yeah.
No, like
Yeah.
but yeah. That was not supposed to be a mic drop moment. I think referring to Sanjay's slip of the microphone there.
Yeah.
Detroit, he just wants to be on the record. He loves you. Okay.
Yeah. I
Um,
know. I know. I never
uh,
take anything personally.
Michael was saying that Monta had a scratch on the black dial, killed the watch for me, sold at a discount, noting the issue. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
that's a bummer. I've heard only like
Wow.
really good things about Monta, but I mean, I guess things do slip. I mean, like it's a bummer. You know what I mean, Michael? I'm sorry that happened to you. But
Could you
yeah,
have
but
they have a decent warranty, don't they, Monta? They're known for their customer service. So I
yeah,
wonder if you
yeah,
could have done something about that.
yeah, yeah. Or unless you got it like pre-owned or something like that, and the
Oh,
warranty you
yeah.
had. I'm not 100% sure, but
Mm.
okay, yeah. That wasn't as bumpy of a ride with the QC issues as I thought it might be with the chat, but let's looks like
I've
everybody
had
gets great
other ones. I
watches.
can't think of. I can't think right now,
Yeah,
but I know I've had
Delos,
other
right?
ones.
I know. I feel like that's my take too, Clayton. I feel like I've so many watches have come in and out on this desk. There must be some other major QC things, but I mean, like, but really, like, nothing has really, really, really stuck out. I mean, like, you know,
Zelos, I've had clasp barely it couldn't close like on the last Zelos I ever bought. That kind of
yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
a lot of that screws coming out of. But that's you can Loctite that, but still, it seems to
right,
happen a lot on Zelos bracelets.
yeah.
I I've had my Tudor Royale had a giant speck of dust on the second sand.
Mm,
Um, I
no
saw
bueno.
a Pelagos,
Hmm.
Tudor Pelagos with the loom fallen out in the dealer case.
Oh wow.
So
Oh,
it was in the case. This is like middle of 2020. I remember going in for the first time after lockdown or something, and seeing the Pelagos on the case and the loom like dust on the at the bottom of the
Oh
glass.
man.
So that was the first time I had seen that.
I'm seeing that a
Um,
lot on Facebook groups, happening a lot to people's,
yeah,
Pelagos. Yeah,
yeah.
loom
what?
slots falling out, yeah,
Off the bezel,
off
because
the
the
bezel.
Pelagos has a
Ooh.
loom bezel,
Yeah.
ceramic.
What would set you off? Like what's the worst case scenario of a quality control issue that will set you off? That
Oh,
is just like unexcusable. Like getting a would it be like getting like a Grand Seiko Sanjay and then like the worst thing possible imagine is happened QC wise there, which I wouldn't even know what it is, but like do you have like a
Yeah,
doomsday
yeah.
scenario?
So like, once upon a time I got an Oris, right?
Yeah.
And the movement was it was like this revolutionary thing. They
Yeah.
had this 10-year warranty and a 5-day movement, and every time I tried to set the watch, the minute hand jumped like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
That set me off.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think I think but wasn't the explanation? It's like, oh yeah, that happens or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
just wiggle
there's a
the
quirk in the movement,
crown.
yeah, you
Yeah,
gotta
yeah,
back hack it a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they said go back and forth on the crown, but afterwards, the correct way to fix it is to overshoot the time and then go back. That will release the tension and the gears, and you know, it's normal.
Maison, I'll read Maison comment, and he just like reminded me of a quality control issue that I had. So two faults I had: the Zim 104 jammed winding mechanism, and the 93H2 reset pusher does nothing. Worked initially, and I'm sure I didn't misuse it. This reminds me of like the first Zen that I've watched, and I bought it from WatchBuys, and it was the 856 UTC, and the UTC time was running super fast. It was
Mm,
running like, and I remember that happening, and it was like really like the first like since I got back into the hobby, in 2018 or 2019, around that time. It was like it was a really big purchase for me. It was a couple $1,000, and I was eyeing this watch for a long time, and I was so excited when I got it, so I noticed that this was happening, and I sent it to them back to WatchBuys, and they're great. They took it back, and they said they had their watchmaker take a look at it and fix it, and they sent it back to me, and it was happening again. It was
Hmm.
happening again, and I was like, and I sent it back to them, and they looked at it, and they're like, yeah, there is an issue here, but then they were out of stock out of the watch, and didn't know when they were gonna get it, so they did refund me the money. But yeah, that again, I mean, like, there's so many things that happened over the last
Yeah.
couple years. Like, I just remember that, like, Maison's um, uh, post message just like actually just triggered that for me.
I
Chili
just
Badger,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead.
go. I said, Jumping Hands was with the hacking of the Oris 400 caliber now resolved, I believe.
Uh,
Okay. Go
yeah.
ahead, Clayton. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Oh,
you off.
yeah, I just remembered another one. My Weiss Ultralight had dust on the dial, and it was a blue dial and that little white speck. Like, just you try to ignore it, you just can't. So I
Mm,
sent it back, and they cleaned it within warranty. But gosh, I didn't have that watch for like 4 months because of that.
oh man,
Yeah, it was
that's a
gone from
bummer.
like April to August just to clean a speck off the dial.
Yikes. Okay, so hey, let's move on to the last topic, and this is yours, my friend Clayton. Teddy Baldassarre, a Q&A with Master Watchmaker. Will this damage my watch? How often? Dot dot dot. Hey, tell us about this, Clayton.
This one's courtesy of Homer. I didn't watch a whole lot of videos this week, and Homer said he's always saying like this will be good for the soup. So thank you, Homer. We're thanking Homer all the time. I feel
Yep.
like, yeah. So I'm not going to go like all of these. I'm not going to go into too much detail. I figure we can just chat about it after. But this is Teddy Baldassar with Roland Murphy of RGM Watches. Um, some of these answers were I was interested in because I've had these questions because you ask people and they all like he even mentions everybody has a different answer. You ask 10 watchmakers and they're all going to have a different answer. But
Mm,
considering he's Roland Murphy who makes these amazing watches and services Zinn and Jaeger and Benzinger and all that stuff, I feel like he's pretty trustworthy on this. So Teddy just starts with the questions. Your stance on keeping a movement running. A lot of people will just keep their watches on winders all the time. I have a couple friends that do that. He doesn't think that's necessary. He doesn't think it's necessarily a good thing unless it's a perpetual calendar, like we've talked about. They're kind of a pain in the butt to set, right? He has watches he hasn't wound in years.
mm,
I'll get to it a little later, but we've always heard that thing like you should wind your watch once a month to get those
yeah.
lubrication and oils moving, right? He said he's had watches that he probably hasn't wound in many years and he's not too worried about it. He said, so it's probably a good idea. He was like, but he said it's
Mm,
probably a good idea to do it like once or twice a year, just to get everything moving. But he said it's it puts unnecessary wear and tear on your watch. It's like leaving your car running all the time. Like, what's the
mm,
point? I know some people just like to have their watches always running, like grab
yeah.
and go. But yeah, I let mine die. I don't
Yeah.
really I have watch winders that I've gotten. They just kind of sit there and look pretty and collect dust. I don't use them. But maybe if I get a perpetual calendar someday, I will. Then Teddy asked him about in-house movements. Roland said it basically comes down to personal preference. A lot of times, it's easier to get spare parts for these third-party movements. If you buy like from a super niche independent with an in-house movement, and then they go under, like, because they're a
Mm,
small business, then you're kind of in a pickle when you need to get your watch service down the road, right? Where do you get these parts from if they're really specialized movements and specialized parts? He said he designs RGM watches with that in mind. That he tries to make them serviceable by any watchmaker worth his or her salt. So that's
mm,
pretty cool. I like that.
yeah.
Um, I know I know a few movements are like that too. That is the Oris caliber 400 like that. It can be served. No, the Damasco in-house movement. I think they did theirs where it's sort of like an ETA, can be serviced by anybody. So that's pretty cool for an
Yeah,
in-house
and
movement.
I think Richard and Maria Harpering. I mean, they designed those modular movements to
Yeah.
because they send you like with spare parts, and they realize you're not going to send it back to Austria per se. to get something fixed, right? You
Right.
know what I mean? So yeah,
That's
go
very
on.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know that about that one. Yeah, Damasco. I remembered that. Then he said, "How often for a service, and who should you trust? Like, are there questions you should ask a watchmaker before you trust them with, your movement?" He said, "If you wear a watch on a regular basis, 5 to 6 years. I know most of us. I don't know what that constitutes. Like, I wear my Air King a lot, but not like daily, right? I'll go
Hmm.
a few weeks or a month without wearing it sometimes. So, but he said 5 to 6 years. You should just always maintain your watches. He said he's talked to people who have worn the same watch for 30 years and brag about never getting it serviced, like, well, now I can look at it and try to fix it, but it's never going to run as well as it did if you got it serviced every 5 to 6 years. So
Hmm.
and then he said just kind of interview a watchmaker, ask them are there certain movements you're not comfortable with, or like my watchmaker is trained on Accutron, the Bulova Accutron movements. He's told me he's the only one fairly local to here that can do it. So
Yeah.
a lot of people that have those watches and find them, and that maybe they're in their parents' collection or whatever. He's the only guy that can do it. So you have to take those things into consideration as well. So in an apocalypse, how long would your watch go without a service? He said, and Teddy asked him, like, what are the things that help keep a mechanical or automatic watch going? He said the environment. Um, Again, don't run it for too long. Don't have it on a watch winder for no reason whatsoever, other than just to have it running. Yeah, I wrote down. It seems like it is kind of a myth that he dispelled, that you need to wind your watch, because I do that. I'll like,
Mm.
oh, I haven't worn it this month, but I better give it
Hmm.
a few winds. So
Hmm.
I guess I don't really have to do that. Maybe as long as I wear it a couple times a year, because I have a couple watches, that the gift watches, that I only wear like a couple times a year. So um, Teddy asked about everyday activities. Is it okay to do things like ride a motorcycle and play golf with your watches? He said avoid magnetic fields wherever possible. If you're getting an MRI, take your watch off. He said, golf under most circumstances is fine, depending on the watch. If you're hitting like a big driver, then maybe not. But otherwise, motorcycle, he's never seen anything with motorcycles really. Talked about hacking. He thinks a lot of high horology pieces don't have hacking. He said he doesn't necessarily think it puts a strain on the movement so much. Watchmaking aspects that are American. He said interchangeable parts were the first thing, and then Teddy told the story of how the person in charge of Longines in like the 1800s came over to Waltham to see how they were making their watches so fast, because Longines was having a hard time getting them out. And then a motor barrel system is also a uniquely American innovation in watchmaking. How often do you change gaskets? If you go swimming regularly, once a year, he said. Gaskets and lube break down. Water can get in through the crown and the crystal as well. If there's maybe a little scratch or tear in the crystal. It's risky to swim in a lot of watches, even if they have depth ratings that you would think would be suitable. I've always heard that about like the Santos and like square watches. They are not the best for swimming, even though they're rated to like 100 meters.
Hmm.
And he does not like screw down crowns. I found this interesting.
Hmm.
He's not a big fan, because he said it unless you absolutely need it and you're diving deep distances. It actually, with cross threading and all like that, it can cause more damage than just a simple push pull. So he's not a huge fan of screw down crowns. Again, I feel like that's marketing. So many people tell us like that we need screw down
Right.
crowns for water safety,
Mhm.
and I don't have any watches that I'm afraid the crown's going to pull out, but I guess that is a concern. And then he talked about just becoming a watchmaker. He shoot him an email. He'll send you an email with all the school listings. And get you on your way to being a watchmaker. And then the last one was the physical demands of being a watchmaker, which I actually have thought about sometimes. Yeah, good posture, making sure you have good dexterity in your hands, getting your eyes checked regularly, of course. A lot of tiny little parts, so you have to make sure, even with the high powered glasses that they use. And then you said mental, also like frustration. Sometimes I get frustrated when I'm trying to change a strap. Sometimes, let alone fiddling with these tiny, teeny little screws. I have to get up and walk away sometimes, right? If the spring
Yep.
bars are too tight, the tolerances are too tight, or something. So, yeah, I thought it was a. I like Roland. He seems like a really cool guy. So I like this video. Thank you, Homer.
Yeah. I met Roland last year at
Oh,
Watchtime. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it seemed like a really cool guy. Hey, I always, a few years ago, I thought like I have to when I buy a watch, collect a watch, it's got to be an in-house movement. Like I think I have for some reason had been, I drank the Kool-Aid and found that there was huge value in that. Now I'm like, it doesn't have to. In fact, like I I'd rather have a collection that's mostly off the shelf movements that have been either worked on or regulated or um, done whatever the watchmaker wants to do to them, just to get them performing at a high level and look good. I'm totally fine with that. An in-house movement here or there, that's fine, because I think about now like the cost of servicing that thing, right, and
Yep.
having parts available and whatnot. And so that is a big concern for me now. Like, or not a big concern, but necessarily, but it's not as important that I have every movement in house. You know,
Yep.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Me
that's
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
I,
because I actually find it to be a big positive now if the movement is a off the shelf movement, uh, especially if it's like an at a 2892 or
yeah,
Seiko is kind
Yep.
of an exception because Seiko is so there's so many movements out
yeah,
there in the wild. But I do prefer you know the movement to be off the shelf, easily serviceable.
yeah,
For all the watches that I keep for decades, right?
yeah. And
Um,
it's not a knock, right, right. And it's not a knock necessarily that so like I going back, I mentioned the Jaeger and Benzinger that I owned before. That watch had an off-the-shelf movement that was made like 30 or 40 years ago, maybe longer. Maybe longer. They found a stash of these movements, and it was a manufactured movement. I forget the name of the movement company. They don't no longer exist. They folded during the quartz crisis, but I've made all these movements, and so this is an off-the-shelf movement, right?
hmm.
That can be serviced with modern parts now. But if you turned it back and saw the case back and saw the movie, like it was engraved. He engraved the heck out of it. It looked like a work of art. You wouldn't have known that
Yeah.
this. You thought that this was something really, really special, and it is. It is. But it's just another off the shelf. So that's like the sky's the limit with this kind of stuff with off the shelf movies, because you have all the parts, and if you have somebody who wants to put in the time to really spruce up that movement, to me that's just as the work that the man hours that are put into that is just as important to me or valuable as something that is developed in house.
Yep.
Mhm.
And look, develop in house. I mean, there's a lot of R&D that goes into it. I appreciate what's going on. A lot of money is spent to develop those in-house movements, but I don't need every watch in my collection to have an in-house movement. I don't.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
this
and if
Vogard
every
World Time. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sanjay.
no, no, I was just gonna quickly say if every company devises their own in-house movement, it's only natural for it to be less reliable, right?
Yes.
So
Mm,
it's just something you're gonna have to deal with in-house movements. Just because it's in-house doesn't mean it's superior to
yeah,
something that's off the shelf. So
yeah,
yeah, sorry, Clayton,
Oh,
please.
no, I was just gonna say this Vogard, I've had to send it back to the watchmaker again. It stopped working. Like, the mechanism was proprietary to this Vogard brand, but luckily the movement's just an ETA 2892. So
yeah,
now it's an issue with the movement. So, if, gosh, if that was their in-house movement on top of this, like, mechanism that he created, they'd be sending it back to Switzerland. Luckily, they can't make those watches anymore as part of their, um IP, selling their IP to IWC, but they still service. So but now the AD is fixing it. So, but I'm thankful it's not an in-house movement.
Another thing I want to bring up about the video, and it's something that like I really really enjoyed in the beginning when he was like showcasing some of his collection. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's probably a small sample, right? He picked 10 watches, and he had some of like some American made pieces from back in the day, along with some of his watches that he made, and I thought that was really really neat, man. And like him like talking about how he got into watchmaking and the early years of all that, and I just thought that was just kind of cool. Like I would love to see more videos of watchmakers collections.
Yeah.
Like I think that would be super super interesting. It'd give a sneak peek on what motivates them and who they are, and then use that information with like a new set of glasses to see what they create. You know what I mean? And see where they get their influences from. So yeah, I mean I don't know how that can happen, but I want to see more collection videos from watch collect makers.
I might have missed that part of the video.
I think it was a separate video. It was like
Oh, was it?
the other day he did like a
Oh, wasn't that?
state of the collection video with
Well, no, but in this Q&A, didn't he didn't he bring out some of his watches in the beginning, or because that
no.
was the link that you gave? Oh, okay, all right then.
Oh, did I send you the wrong link? I might have. No, because like the day before they did a whole state of the collection video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so maybe I
So I
sent you
think
the
that
wrong one. Sorry.
then I put that link in the description. Anyway,
Oh,
I gotta
okay.
watch that one.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And in this video, he said he has hundreds of watches. So I bet
Yeah.
he's well, he worked for he has a lot of like old Hamiltons, I think
Mm-hmm.
he said in that video. And yeah, he's got some amazing watches, I'm sure.
Sanjay, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah. He mentioned one of my worst nightmares is stripping a screw down crown.
Yeah.
How when Clayton, you mentioned how he said that he prefers not to have screw down crowns on all of his watches, except unless if it's implicitly needed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was thinking about this because I was unscrewing the screw down crown on my SJE, my Seiko 62 Mass Recreation, and I was screwing it back in, and I forgot to set the date, and I unscrewed it. And then when I screwed it back in, it caught on the second thread or something, and it got stuck. And I was like, "Oh no!" So I have like this neurosis or something going on now about screw down crowns. But and this video was kind of came out in a timely, right when something like that happened. So I have this screw down crown phobia, which I'm sure will work out of my system. But yeah, really not ideal. And it makes me think of a decade from now when I still have this SJ093. Is the screw down crown going to be okay?
Sanjay.
I'm a new
You
man.
think you might be able to keep it like somewhat long, but 10 years maybe not, but you feel like that one
I think
could be
so.
around? Yeah.
I think so.
Other than any watches like you got handed down to you or given to you by a family member, Sanjay, is there any chance that any watch that you buy
Yeah.
gets to 10 years?
Yeah. My Zenith and my my SJ093 and my my Grand Seiko that I just got yesterday,
I think the only way that this happens is that we just like freeze you like cryogenically and just like and then wake you up in 10 years.
Yeah.
Like I think it's just the only I'm sorry, buddy. I'm
No,
sorry.
hey, I'm
I love you. I love you to death.
I know.
We freeze you and put you in Jabba's palace.
Yeah.
I'm out to prove the world wrong. I'm a new man,
Yeah. Caliber saying I recently got a vintage watch that was my grandfather's, and it hadn't been wound in probably 40 years.
Yep.
And my watchmaker wound it, and it was running minus 1.5 seconds. Wow. Amazing. Mizon, I put it on the winder, but in a winder you can control and the winds and timing. Set it to underwind periodically, unless you need it constantly be wound like a perpetual calendar. Eric's asking, who's your watchmaker? I have a tuning fork movement, but no one to service it.
Oh, just a local guy. He's like a mile or two away from me. get in touch with me. Watchdog on Instagram. Send me a message. I can. He'll fix it.
Bruno, using a little, he getting all jokey here. In-house movements are better than out-house movements.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, those are unhygienic.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. You can find more than a hair in that movement.
I have a Breitling that needs a service 7750 movements. Could do Breitling office official service or find a local watchmaker. Not sure how to track down a good watchmaker around here, north west England. Yeah, I feel like good watchmakers know how to service that movement. You know what I mean? Like that's a chrono that they probably learned on. So best of luck, Ms. Seriously. James saying the maxim of engineering is overgeneralize and you stifle innovation, but over specialize and you breed in weakness. You're right.
So true. So true.
Very, very true. So true. If you have a car, I bet you would prefer an understood engine running gear when it breaks down. Same for watches, unless you have lots of time and big pockets. The SBGA 413 is in the shop after less than 3 years because of a screw down crown.
Mm.
So screw down crowns. I didn't realize that. I mean, like, I guess. Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, it's a marketing thing for sure.
And how would you even fix that? Like, you'd have to replace the case, right? Unless if the crown, unless if the tube is replaceable.
I would.
I feel like it'd be the threads
Yeah.
in the actual case, right? Like you said. So yeah.
I think you can rethread. I mean, I've seen that guy, Wristwatch Revival. I've seen him do that with a case, like the tube, like rethread the inside.
If the threads inside the crown are messed up, you can rethread the crown, but you can't add metal to the case to.
Right? I feel like, I don't know, man. I feel like I've seen that done though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Gives me a.
I mean, I feel like just because I feel like I've seen that done doesn't mean I actually saw that done.
Well, the reason I'm thinking about that one though is because one of the selling points of the SLA 055 057 was the fact that the tube is replaceable easily, like it's built as a modular part. But
a new tube is pressed in.
Okay.
The crown tube can be rethreaded, but it will never be the same.
Have you ever had a problem with non-screw down crowns like coming out on you when you like maybe taking your hand out of your pocket, getting caught on something? I don't think I have.
Not that I'm aware of.
See, the screw down crown though is super useful because it compresses a gasket, which you can't ever really effectively do by pressing something in.
Right.
When you screw it in, you're putting enough pressure to make that seal. Versus when you press something in, you still can make a decent seal, but it's never going to be as.
But is that added little benefit worth?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Sorry, that must be the word of the day, phrase of the day.
That Fortis I have is not. That Fortis I have is not a screw down crown, but it's 200 meters water resistance, which I always thought was interesting. Yep.
Yeah, I had
push pull crown though.
Yeah,
I had a Zenithal Primero, and I believe it was 100. It must have been 100, and that push pull, and it was 100-meter water resistance, which I thought was like interesting. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
But there you have it. Hey guys, what's going on this week, Sanjay? I mean, are we gonna? I feel like we're gonna see some heartbreaking videos coming this week, man. I just got this feeling, man. I don't know. Maybe you are turning a new leaf. Maybe you are a new man. But I just feel like some shoe's gonna drop soon after your trip. I mean, to the AD yesterday. I don't know. Am I crazy? Am I crazy to think that?
Well, you're not crazy. You're just only, it's like the stock market. You look at the history and see what happened back there.
Crazy like a
um,
fox.
but we're in unprecedented times because
Yeah.
because yeah, nothing crazy will happen. Um, I do have videos planned. I have a Cermet video coming out
Ooh,
soon. I
nice.
still have to edit that Grand Seiko SPGN 029 video where the I had the defective dial, if you want to call it that, slightly off spec dial, I guess. But yeah, those are the videos in the works, and I hope to get them out this week.
Excellent, excellent. Clayton, anything new coming on the podcast this week?
No, I haven't done one in a couple weeks, but I'm thinking going to be back on the horse this week with a return guest who's in the chat now or was earlier. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
You're gonna keep us guessing.
yes,
Yeah.
okay. That's called a tease. I'll do that. I
All right.
usually just give it away. Well, I'll tease this time.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, looking forward to that as well this week. Hey guys, thanks for joining us this evening. I'll be back on Tuesday for another live stream show where we discuss some topics and new releases. Again, I hope you had a good weekend. Have a great start of the week this week, and we will chat soon. We'll see you next week for Watch Soup. Have a good one, guys. Good
Thank
night.
you guys. Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Night, Homer.